In 2008, three roommates couldn't pay rent. So they sold cereal boxes, Obama O's and Captain McCain's. They made $30,000. That money funded the business that today is worth $75 billion. This is the Airbnb story. It all started in 2007. Brian Chesky and Joe Gibbia, two design graduates living in San Francisco, they were barely making it through life, just struggling. Then they noticed that a design conference was coming to town and the hotels were fully booked, the prices were through the roof, and people were desperate for a place to stay. They had a house and they had three air mattresses in their closets. So they did something crazy. They brought out their air mattresses, inflated them, and placed them in the sitting room. Then they built a basic website, Air Bed and Breakfast, and they charged $80 per night with breakfast. Three people actually showed up and they made $240 from this. That money was enough to pay rent. But then they had a question on their minds. Is this luck? Is it a fluke? Or do we actually have a business here? So they decided to test it out. And they tested it out with every big event that came to town. Anytime that hotels were fully booked, there they were testing out their theory. Then they decided to bring on Nathan, an engineer, the technical brain that they desperately needed. So they built out a full platform and pitched their ideas to investors. But investors were not buying it. What do you mean strangers sleeping in other strangers' houses? Nobody wants that. Nobody wants a stranger in their space. And so once again, they were out of money. Then they decided to do something that was quite insane. They bought boxes, hand cut them, glued them together, and started selling cereal. Now, this was during the 2008 US election. And so they made Obama O's and Captain McCain's limited edition, a breakfast you can believe in. So they made 1,000 copies of each and sold them for $40. They sold everything off and they made $30,000 from this. That money was what they used to fund their business. Now, this move caught the attention of Paul Graham, a co-founder at Y Combinator. And so Y Combinator signed them on, not because of their idea was great, but just because they were relentless. Now let's discuss what they did to take this from a side hustle to a global platform. The first move was trust. How do you get people to open up their houses to strangers? And how do you get strangers to feel comfortable staying in another stranger's house? This was not just a product problem, this was a human psychology problem. And so they built in verification systems, verifying each user, and also rating systems where the traveler or the guests rated the host, and the hosts also rated the guests. And whichever one had bad ratings was filtered out of the system. Then they added the $1 million guarantee. Your home gets damaged, we've got you covered. And that was a game changer. Now, hosting was less of a risk and more of an opportunity. The second thing was photography. Now, earlier on, a lot of hosts were not getting booked because the pictures were blurry. They had uploaded blurry images, and people were just not seeing the beauty of the homes that they were booking. So the bookings were quite slow. Then the founders did something. They rolled up their sleeves and went door to door to every host's house and took professional pictures of the houses. That greatly improved the bookings. But then that couldn't scale. So what they did was they now created a network of photographers in every city where there were hosts, and they put up the service for hire on the platform. So hosts could hire professional photographers to take the pictures of their homes. The third move that they made was the business model. It was a commission structure. The host paid 3% of the booking fee, and the guest paid a service fee of 5 to 15%. So both sides contributed to Airbnb. Now, this was genius because Airbnb doesn't make money unless if the houses gets booked. And so they did everything to ensure houses get booked. Now, what I actually find really genius was the fact that they didn't stop at just regular houses. They didn't stop at just renting out regular houses. They went on. They rented out tree houses, igloos, yachts, whatever it is that people could live in could also just be rented out. And then they also extended it even to experiences. Now they were not competing with the hotels anymore. They had carved a niche for themselves outside the regular hotel business. Now let's talk about moments that almost ended Airbnb. In 2011, the home of a host in San Francisco was damaged, thrashed, vandalized, destroyed, and she was broken. She wrote a blog about it and it went viral. Now, Airbnb's response to this was not great, it was just terrible. They offered to pay her $2,000 and just basically downplayed the entire thing, and the internet blew up. Everybody was talking about this. They called it ransack gates. And Brancheski realized that this could end Airbnb. And so what he did was he wrote a personal apology to this lady, and then they promised to give her $50,000. And they also now came up with the $1 million compensation for anyone who had that kind of issue in the future. They also started a 24/7 customer service line for both the guests and the hosts. They turned the crisis moment into a credibility moment. Then in 2020, COVID happens. Travel stops, completely stops. Airbnb lost 80% of their revenue in 8 weeks. 8 weeks. They had to let go of 25% of their staff. But then they pivot hard. Live anywhere, work from anywhere. They lean into long-term stays, monthly rentals, digital nomads, and just remote workers. And it saved them. In December 2020, they go public. On the first day, stock doubles, and they're valued at $100 billion, from near bankruptcy to one of the best IPOs of that year. Now that is resilience. So where is Airbnb now? October 2025. They are navigating some serious headwinds. First, regulation. Cities around the world are cracking down hard. Barcelona, Paris, New York, Amsterdam. And this is because too many properties are being converted to short-term rentals, Airbnbs. And it's basically affecting the locals. Locals are being priced out of their accommodations. So it's basically affecting rentals. There's now shortage of rentals, and Airbnb is having to fight this city by city. The second is competition. Hotels have finally adapted, and they now have homes for rent. Marriott has apartments, bookings.com also rents out apartments, and this is basically big competition for Airbnb. And the third is the quality problem. Now, this is affecting the core of the business model. With a hotel, you know what you're getting. It's predictable. With Airbnb, it could be good and it could be bad. We've had situations where hosts are telling their guests to do some chores before they check out, or you have the cleaning fees being higher than the actual fee you pay to stay in an apartment. This is affecting Airbnb. But this is what they are doing right. They are leaning into experiences, not just accommodations. So you get tour guides on Airbnb now. You get chefs. They are basically moving more towards an entire travel experience than just accommodation. They are also leaning heavily into AI for predictions, and this is something that they are getting right. Now, the big question is, can they maintain marketplace dominance when cities are gradually regulating them out of business? That's the big question. If I were a PM at Airbnb today, here's what I'll do. First, I'll solve the quality problem once and for all. I'll create clear tiers: Airbnb verified, Airbnb premium, and Airbnb standard. Airbnb verified means these are verified apartments. You get to stay in apartments that have actually been verified by Airbnb. Now, Airbnb premium is going to be luxury hotel standard apartments where you actually get whatever amenities that you want. And Airbnb standard, I mean, you get whatever you pay for. I'll also work on a mandatory transparent pricing. No surprise fee when you're trying to check out. Nobody telling you to pay for cleaning or anything. I'll make sure all prices are displayed upfront before anybody books an apartment. Second, I'll partner with the cities instead of fighting them. Partner with the housing authorities and build a good neighbor program. I'll voluntarily reduce the number of days that an apartment can be rented out per year. I'll basically be proactive about solving the housing issue and not defensive. Right now, they are being defensive, and I think they are losing out. Third, I'll go all in on long-term stay. The future of work is flexible. Digital nomads, remote workers, people staying for months in other locations just working. I'm going to just tap into that market, and I think it has a higher margin anyway. So that is going to work for Airbnb. Finally, I'll build real insurance products, not just guarantees, actual insurance for the guests and for the hosts. I'll partner with insurance organizations and insurance businesses to make this happen. I think this will put people's minds more at rest than just giving them guarantees. Once that is solved, you unlock a whole new market potential. Hosts that want to participate in this but are currently too scared, they would sign up. Now, there are 3 lessons that we can learn from this. Number 1, solve your own problem first. The founders needed to pay rent, and so they came up with a way that they can pay their rent by renting out the space that they had in their apartments. Real products that solve real problems are products that are born out of actual pain points and not just surveys. Number 2, trust. Trust is a feature in any platform or any marketplace that connects strangers. Trust is not a nice to have. It is the core, is the product itself. So invest in guarantees, in reviews, verifications, insurance to put the user's mind at rest. Number 3, category creation beats competition. Airbnb didn't try to be a better hotel. They instead created a different category for themselves. They went in with not just accommodations in regular houses, but in yachts, in igloos, and also with experiences. So shout out to Brian, Joe, and Nathan for being relentless and creating an awesome product. And here we draw the curtain on the Airbnb story. Thanks for listening. See you again next week. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. Let us know what product you would like us to tell a story about the next time. Bye-bye.